We recently decided to get some chickens for the backyard.
Girls are with us on route home.
Predominantly as pets, but also as egg layers. And one of the key roles as a chicken owner is to keep the girls safe. And coincidentally, in parallel to deciding to get chickens, I've been doing an Australian Graduate School of Management risk management program and decided to use the chicken coop as my case study for the risk management exercise. So the key risk I outlined was if the chicken coop is not predator proof, our chickens may be killed by a predator, which typically on the northern beaches of Sydney would be foxes, snakes, and then dogs and cats. So in the words of Sun Tzu, I need to think like the predator, in this case a fox. And I think 2020 has posed enough challenges, so we want to keep the girls as safe as we possibly can. Thinking about the risk of a predator attack in a 5x5 matrix, the likelihood is almost certain, greater than 80% probability, without additional controls in place. And the impact of losing chickens to a predator for Ellie and I is major, mainly from an emotional impact perspective. I mean, the chickens became family members with names the moment we picked them up. So what are the vulnerabilities and weak points of the chicken coop design? I thought about that from above, from underneath, from the sides, i.e. the walls, and the openings, i.e. the doors and latches. Actually, from above, I'm quite comfortable with the roof design. I've just reinforced that with some stainless steel screws just to make sure that it's very windproof. We do get a bit of wind in Sydney, and also in case any branches did come down. So the first main vulnerability is actually underneath, so a predator digging underneath the coop, especially the fact that the area is full of soft soil, which would have been easily dug up. So that was controlled by laying down 3.2mm heavy gauge galvanized mesh underneath the coop and foundations, but also making sure it overlapped outside of the perimeter. So there was an apron, which would have made it problematic for a fox to dig down. And then I laid 2 tons of blue metal stone wrapped in geotech cloth, and then a ton of builder's sand thrown on top. Now this reinforces the control for digging underneath the coop, but also doubles up as really great drainage for any rain or moisture that manages to get into the coop. The second vulnerability were the walls and the sides of the coop design. So the first issue is the light gauge mesh, which is absolutely fantastic for snake proofing, but that's really thin and can be chewed through by a fox easily, and certainly by a dog. So I reinforced the outside of the coop with a second layer of 3.2mm heavy gauge galvanized steel mesh, which I did need bolt cutters and an angle grinder to cut through. So really solid, and also fixed to the frame with plenty of heavy duty galvanized fixing, so that there's no gaps for any predators to be able to sort of get their way in. The other vulnerability of the walls of the coop was the thin timber. So I made sure wherever there was thin timber, I just reinforced that again with the heavy gauge galvanized mesh, and also installed 2x4 treated pine timber, nice and thick as well. So again, no gaps. The third vulnerability was around the openings, and more specifically around the latches. So I installed 316 stainless steel pad bolts where we have a secondary stage of a snap lock carabiner where you need thumbs to open, which obviously a fox doesn't have, and also it serves as a human reminder for us to make sure that those carabiners are snap closed when we close the doors and openings. In addition to installing the heavy gauge mesh underneath the coop, as well as around the walls of the coop, and installing the pad bolt latches, we've installed some solar powered motion sensor lights to warn off predators at night time. Now these were $20 off Amazon and proving really effective. They're even picking up bandicoots at night, which is great. The coop itself is screwed down into the H4 ironwood foundations with 50 100mm deck screws, so it's not going anywhere. And finally, it would be remiss of me not to show you our mains fed water feeder for the girls, which is really convenient when we go away for a weekend or longer. So in summary, we have identified our risks and vulnerabilities before they've manifested into incidents, and we've put preventative controls in place which we continue to monitor. Open to any feedback and commentary on this simple demonstration of risk management.